ये WhatsApp आ गया, इसको कैंसिल करना है। इसको चल रहा है वो एक्चुअली वो अपने किसी ने लिंक में डाला हुआ होगा ना, कॉन्वर्सेशन स्टार्ट होगी बस वीडियो ऑन कर लेना।
Good evening to all. I'm Shallow Joseph, a part of the Department of History, St. Dominic's College. A hearty welcome to the third day of the International Webinar on Social Justice and Indian Modernity, organized by the Department of History, St. Dominic's College, Kanjirapally. Let's have a look at the order of events today. Very Reverend Father Varghese Parandarikal, Manager, St. Dominic's College, will introduce the concept. Sri Digvijaya Singh, Honorable former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, will deliver the key address and then interact with us. Then the webinar will be concluded with remarks by the convener, followed by vote of thanks. There is a gentle reminder for the smooth conduct of the webinar. Please keep your audio muted unless you want to speak up. Kindly post your questions in the chat box while the session is on. You can also raise your hands to ask questions during the interaction. Please fill up the feedback form provided by the end of the session. Please note that this is mandatory for issuing e-certificate. You don't have to post your details in the chat box. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Very Reverend Father Varghese Parandarikal, Manager, St. Dominic's College, is a great visionary and educationalist who possesses a very clear idea about social justice, which he puts into practice through his educational interventions. Reverend Father will give an introduction to the session. Dear Father, we wait for you.
Sri Digvijaya Singh, Honorable former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, and the observers of the day, dignitaries and participants. The concept of social justice is rooted in and directly opposed to the phenomenon of social inequality. In our layered society, there exists a small section which dominates and enslaves the majority of people for perpetuating its own interests. It tries to keep itself in power by maintaining its political, social, economic, and cultural supremacy. Social justice as a goal is said to have been achieved when this minority of social, economic, cultural, and political superiors come to terms with the majority inferiors. and willingly agree to treat them as their equal partners. In the process towards achieving modernity was marked by different socio-religious experiences in the 19th century. The inheritance of this set of ideas of understanding and reforming society has worked out in complex ways from the 20th century onwards. This is seen in the constant untouchability debates between Dr. Ambedkar, Gandhiji, and many other thinkers and beyond. The challenges of social justice in the form of caste-based politics, poverty, inequality, exclusion, gender disparities, and unbalanced growth of various kinds still ruling the scenario. There are many issues yet to be settled, and there are many developments coming up about which our responsible citizens have to be vigilant. Education is the most powerful tool to bring about desired changes in the society. Political will, decision, and activism are mandatory to move towards the ideal of social justice as it was successfully illustrated by terms of power of our resource person, Sri Digvijaya Singh. Sri Digvijaya Singh is an authority to speak on the topic social justice and Indian modernity for his hands-on experience, oratory skill, and vision. Wish you all a very informative and fruitful session. Thank you.
Sri Digvijaya Singh MD, the former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, is a national leader with a distinction. Special care to the needy and downtrodden sessions, thousands of new village schools, realizing decentralization and healthcare guarantee schemes are only few among the many schemes and meaningful interventions for which his tenure as a Chief Minister is remembered. Yes, the resource person of the day has been a great champion of the cause of social justice. And in India today, in these troubled and chaotic times of transformation, he is one of the most vigilant and committed spokesperson of social justice and democracy. Honorable Sir, with all due respect and eagerness to listen to you, I humbly request you to speak to us on social justice and Indian modernity.
Well, thank you, Michael. Honorable Shri Father Francis Thomas Ji and the students and the each professors of St. Dominic's College Department of History. Well, it's a great honor and a great opportunity for me to interact with the young people, students, and the professors of history from one of the most aware state of Kerala. Well, the subject given to me is social justice in Indian modernity. I would not like to preach or sermonize, but I would rather like to interact with the students and the participants and respond to their queries and questions. Well, social justice is basically the ethos of the Indian heritage. And it goes to the credit of Mahatma Gandhi, who have chosen Babasaheb Ambedkar, who started his life in poverty and discriminated society. And he came up with an Indian constitution which the preamble states that we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. Now, the very preamble speaks about the Indian ethos. And India has always been a very liberal society. Even if you say the heritage of India, the essence of Hinduism, the essence of the Sanatan Dharma has been that of universal brotherhood. Vasudev Kutumbakam, that the whole universe is a family. That is the essence of Hinduism, which unfortunately is being distorted by radical fundamentalists as they stand today. When you talk of the exclusiveness of the Hindu society, we missed out the point, as has been pointed out in Gita, in the chapter 4 and 18, where the division in the four categories of Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra were not that on the basis of birth, but on the basis of what they are capable of doing. So therefore, the original thought of the Varn Vyavastha, which has been one of the major reasons of social injustice in India, is absolutely a wrong perception as being understood over the years because of the identity of some sections. Now, Swami, I would like to go to what Swami Vivekananda had said about the Hinduism in his famous Chicago speech. You see, he has sort of identified or sort of given a picture that there are three facets of any religion. First is the core value. The core value is that of humanism. The core value is that of a human dignity and being a good human being. And that is common to all religions. Second is the myth and the mythology. And each religion has got its own myths and mythology. And the third is, of course, the rituals. Now, unfortunately, the myth and the mythology and the rituals have become more important, the very essence of that religion. And this we have seen in all religions as they stand today. It goes to the great credit of our country that Christianity came to India in the almost 40 to 50 years after the birth of Christ. And Islam also came to India in the 8th century. But there has been no religious war as such in India. There have been wars for power, but never religious wars as it stands today. So therefore, we must understand even Christianity, because that is also the fundamental issue in Bible also. I have seen the immense work with dedication which missionaries have done in the tribal belt of Madhya Pradesh, where I come from, now parts of Chhattisgarh. Excellent work has been done in matters of education and health. Then one of the highest literacy areas are the areas where the Christian missionaries were very strong in Raigad and Jashpur, that area. So Christianity by itself emerged out of social injustice because of tyrannical oppression of the people of Israel. So therefore, I think social justice is an issue which is the essence of all religions, because most of the religions have evolved or have emerged out of the social injustice committed, and this is where I think we have to understand that social justice is the basic issue which brings harmony in the society. Now, what are the basic fundamentals of social justice? Access to all, equity to all, unity in diversity, participatory democracy, and of course, human rights. Now, this is something which we have to ensure, and this is the basis on the basic foundation of our Indian Constitution. India is a diverse society with more than 18 official languages, hundreds of religious and ethnic religions. Ethnic diversity is inherent, and therefore, the greatest strength of our country is the unity in diversity. So, therefore, I think there are some institutions today which are working overtime, which are trying to sort of create hatred, and which is leading to violence amongst the different religious groups. And this, I think, is the biggest threat as it stands today. Now, my own experience has been that religious fundamentalism, they all work together. They work in tandem. And they are the two faces of the same coin. I myself have seen that whenever I took strong action against the Hindu fundamental groups, there was an immediate reaction from the hardcore religious fundamentalist groups of the Islamic societies. So therefore, we have to deal with both. Congress party as such has fought all these religious fundamentalist groups before independence and after independence. Any kind of a compromise on ideology with these fundamentalist groups would be suicidal to our Indian democracy and an Indian constitution. What we see today is that some of these institutions, some of these organizations, through social media, are using this tool of social media of spreading fake news all over, which is leading to confrontation, which is leading to instances where mob lynching has taken place, communal riots have taken place. So therefore, I think this is something which is the biggest danger facing us in India today. I come from an area which has been dominated by the Hindu Mahasabha and the Jan Sangh and the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh from the very beginning. And from the very inception, I've been fighting these forces politically to the best of my ability. And I've seen the hard realities and the actual face of these communal organizations. And this, I feel, is the biggest threat to the existence of very democracy in India. And therefore, I think we have to make people understand, and students particularly, who are at an impressionable age and at a period where social media has become the order of the day, all kinds of fake news are being spread. And that now has to be seen in the modern context. Now, my subject is social justice and the Indian modernity. Social justice and Indian modernity. Now, what is modernity? It is always in the context of the present. As it stands today, we cannot sort of rest on our history. We have to look ahead. We have to look in future. The biggest challenge today to sort of have social justice in this country is that we have to look in totality. Because of some of the steps taken by the present government of India, the gap between the rich and the poor is increasing. The rich are becoming richer, the poor are becoming poorer. In the 10 years of UPA rule, under the leadership of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and the directions of Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh, we brought in a lot of legislation giving the rights of education, right of information, right of food to the people. The strength of social justice is through democratization and participatory democracy of the people of this country. Through the Panchayati Raj and through the urban local bodies and decentralization, give power to the people. I've always felt that people are solutions, people not problems. Given the authority and given the power to take up and deal with issues and implement projects as such, have been very successful as far as my experience has been. So therefore, I think what is more important is to give more power and more authority to the people and involve them in participatory democracy. This government, and unfortunately our Honorable Prime Minister and his party, BJP, thinks contrary. One nation, one language, one religion, that kind of a theory. The Hindu Rashtra, which they have been propagating from the very inception, is something which is not possible in this country with such diversity as it stands today. Even Nepal, which has got more Hindus than in percentage-wise in Nepal than in India, have not adopted in their constitution a theocratic state. They have not declared Nepal as an as a Hindu nation, but have adopted a secular, democratic phase in the constitution. So therefore, I think today in the modern context of social justice and Indian modernity context, we have to be very, very careful that the first right to the all our resources and also the education or health has to be to the downtrodden, deprived, and the poor. This is the major challenge which is facing us, and this is the challenge which we have, all political parties have today in India. I personally would not like to sermonize a lot, too much. I would like to respond to any queries and questions of the participants. So with that, I would like to conclude that as it stands today, social justice is under threat. And because if you see the way the government has handled the the COVID from March to date, in a country of 1.3 billion people, how can you enforce a lockdown within 4 hours? You saw the way poor migrant laborers had to walk thousands of kilometers, pregnant women, small children, people died on the way, and the government would not look at all these issues. There has been no, I would say, documentation of how many migrant laborers died on their way back to their home. So therefore, I think this is something which is extremely, I would say, serious as it stands today. Our economy is on the slide. Unemployment has grown. More than 5 million people have lost their jobs. The small and micro, minor unorganized industries have closed down. They need help to sort of reorganize themselves and restart. Therefore, I think we are facing a very difficult period. And therefore, to add on to that, if we have to face the challenge of the communal hatred, is something which is extremely dangerous to the very existence of our Indian democracy. Thank you. Hello, can you come in?
Hello. This was a very inspiring and very bold session, I must say, because our resource person has told us very clearly what is happening in current scenario in contemporary India. Now the participants may come up with good questions so that we can have a very live session of interactions. So to start with, there is one question asked by Nibin Joseph. The question is, sir, according to you, which are the major problems that led to the lack of social justice in our country? You have already given a few, maybe some more, sir.
Yeah. You know, one of the major reasons was the social character in our rural area, which was predominantly in favor of the Zamindars and the Jagirdars. Because of that, it took time for people to get benefits of the measures which the land reforms which Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru took after our independence movement. So therefore, the social justice was delivered to a great extent. And of course, reservation provided in the Indian Constitution led to a great opportunity for the people who had been deprived of education and a place in the society because of the setup which we inherited. So therefore, I think the way the things are going, our Indian Constitution as such is under threat also. So therefore, I think the major reason was because of our the feudal system and this the rural areas, because even in the British India, there was no such thing as social justice. There was no land reform, and they were dependent on the big zamindars to collect revenue. So therefore, we started our social justice movement. It began its implementation only after 1947 with the passage of our Indian Constitution. And we brought in the land reform, and it did give a great fillip to the landless and to the underprivileged. And the reservation in jobs and in public life has also added to the given a great fillip to the people in the underprivileged section. And during the 70s, Mrs. Indira Gandhi brought in the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes through the affirmative action, where she gave gas agencies and petrol pumps to scheduled tribes, and gave reservation in professional institutions during the 1970s.
Good evening, Honorable Digvijaya Singh ji. I would like to ask you a humble question.
Yes.
Digvijaya Singh ji, you were highlighting that communal hatred or communal disharmony and fundamentalism are dangerous to attaining social justice and equality.
Yes.
I agree with you fully. But I have another question to ask, whether in spite of all the attempts by various governments, both Congress and BJP governments, to implement reservation policies throughout decades, the so-called social justice is still a mirage, an illusion. And since you were successfully leading Madhya Pradesh as the chief minister there, and you have been implementing the reservation policy there, and still, as far as India is concerned, there is something wrong with our reservation policy, or if even if the reservation policy is apt enough, it fails to bring about or ensure the so-called equality and social justice. So would you please tell us what is wrong with our reservation policy that still goes detrimental and is unable to attain the so-called social justice and equality? Thank you, sir.
During my tenure as Chief Minister, I ensured that all our backlog the posts were filled up through recruitment for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. In Madhya Pradesh, we had, before partition, about 21% population was tribal, about 16% scheduled caste, and after the division, it's about 22% tribal and about 15% scheduled caste. So I ensured that all the vacancies, the backlog, were filled up through recruitment, number one. Then I gave reservation in the promotions also, which of course was resented by the upper caste, which was dominating the bureaucracy in Madhya Pradesh, and which was also one of the reasons where most of the upper caste went against me in 2003, where we could form the government. So as far as I'm concerned, I also ensured that all the grazing land which was being encroached upon by big landlords, I cleared those encroachments and distributed more than 700,000 acres of land to the landless scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So at the same time, I came up with Bhopal Declaration, through which I reserved purchases, government purchases to an effect of 30%, which were to be purchased through the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe entrepreneurs. Also, the next thing what I did was that I gave contracts to SC/ST civil diploma holders, engineers, to give them a head start to take up, become civil contractors in the system. So, to the unemployed SC/ST diploma holders, engineers, I gave them contracts without tender, although not very large contracts, but it gave them an entry into the PWD, the irrigation, water resources, and public health engineering department, which led to the employment of the SC/ST youths. So these are the few things which I did during my tenure.
Thank you, sir. It was a very fine explanation. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next question is the concept of social justice is not a static one in India. It changes according to time and place. Is there any yardstick to ascertain what is social justice in India?
You see, social justice is basically the implementation of the rights and all the laws which are due to a person who may come from a privileged class, deprived sections, and ensure that he gets justice, whether it is legal or in jobs or in the society. So therefore, it changes from place to place and issue to issue and from time to time. But at the same time, social justice would be there, or social injustice would always be there rather, in all societies, even in developed countries, you have social injustice. But at the same time, uh, we have to ensure in every democracy, we have to ensure that the social justice has to be given to the underprivileged. So it may differ from area to area, issue to issue.
Good evening, sir. I have a question. Sir, can you comment on the implementation of uniform civil code in India? Because we are talking about social justice and the implementation of union civil code, which was preferred by Dr. Ambedkar and wasn't an inevitability in a secular nation like India.
See, in uniform civil code is something uh, which is not really been, I would say, neither been codified, and it has not really been explained properly also. It is, although if you see the legal system, there is uniformity in the legal system for all, irrespective of what religion he comes from. But civil code is something which every religion and every even in different I would say subdivisions of each religion, there are different ways of getting married or and other things, how the adoption takes place, other things. So only on the civil issues there's no commonality in a diverse countries like ours. So therefore, uniform civil code is desirable. It's a part of the Indian Constitution, but it has not been looked at because it's a highly contentious issue which has to be understood by every section and adopted and agreed upon. We can't have another contentious issue in the system as it stands today, because uniform civil code will bring in a lot of issues because of our different ways of marriages and other civil, I would say, issues. So therefore, I think it has to be understood and then discussed in depth and detail with all sections of society before we can come to that sort of widely accepted uniform civil code.
Sir, I have one question.
Hello, sir. May I ask a question?
May I
Excuse me,
speak,
I have
sir?
one question. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, so Digvijaya, one question. A remedy to the issue of social injustice. If the answer is yes, why after 70 years of independence, still the issue of social injustice prevails? And one more question, sir. Is this reservation reaching the lower strata of the society? Thank you, sir.
See, reservation was promised, was there for 10 years only, and has continued after each decade. See, there are some families from the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes who have taken maximum advantage of the reservation in government jobs. And there are some families which have not been given any, haven't had an opportunity to come into the government jobs. As it stands today, there are not very jobs available, and of the PSUs, more and more jobs will be lost, which may have reservation. So therefore, reservation in jobs is will not be able to sort of do justice to everyone, every family. What is more important is to find avenues for employment in business and other areas, so that there is a economic activity available for the underprivileged classes. At the same time, reservation for jobs is limited So therefore, I think what is more important, as I said, reservation in through affirmative action. For example, why should all business groups or corporates should not make public the demographic profiles of their employees? Why should they not make public the demographic profiles of their agents, their wholesale agents and retailers? So therefore, I think some kind of either law or some kind of a effort has to be made to bring the unprivileged sections of the society into the through the affirmative action in business and the corporate sector, because reservation in government jobs is not the final answer today, because it's highly limited as it stands today. Reservation has really helped, because I have seen people coming from the poorest of the poorer family within one generation take their economic levels go up. So therefore, I think reservation has helped quite a lot the last 60, 70 years. But that's not all. Consistent efforts have to be made to give opportunity to the underprivileged sections in every field of economic activity.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, as the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, you started thousands of schools. Could you explain how it helped advance social justice?
Could you please repeat your question? As a Chief Minister?
Sir, you have started, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister, you started thousands of schools. Could you explain how it helped advance social
Started what?
justice?
So can you repeat the question?
Sir, you have started thousands of
schools.
Oh, schools. Yeah. You know, Madhya Pradesh has got a very large land area. So we started the scheme of education guarantee scheme, where any community which had more than 40 or 50 students could demand a school, and the government by law had to provide the facilities of a teacher and a premises for the school to start within 90 days. And we started more than 40,000 schools within 6 months, because access was a problem. We had most of the tribal population were in very deep jungles, and there was access was a problem. And tribals by their way of life, an adult child, an adult son would always set up his own house away from his parents. So they are highly, their habitations are very diverse. So we had to set up a school within 1 kilometer so that they could start the schooling. And the teacher was not appointed by the state, but appointed by the community itself, so that there was no issue of absenteeism of the teachers, which is a very big problem as it stands in government schools today. So that worked very well, and we had a jump of almost 18% jump in a decade of literacy through that program.
We have Dr. Whitney Howard from USA, who was the resource person of the last day.
Yeah.
He would like to pose a question. Madam, kindly ask the question. Madam, are you there? Dr. Whitney Howard, are you there? I think she cannot hear. I can read that question out for her. The question put forward by Whitney Howard is this: Sir, do you think India would benefit from a Ministry of Religious Freedom dedicated to anti-communalism, holding politicians accountable for inciting communal violence, holding police chiefs responsible for and creating programs for Hindu, Muslim, Christian restoration and reconciliation. If a ministry is not the best path forward, how can government authorities help India face systemic violence as it relates to religious difference?
You see, Dr. Hawat, you have made a very pertinent point. In fact, the National Advisory Council under Mrs. Sonia Gandhi was contemplating drafting a law to take action against the communal organizations as such, so that any kind of a communal speech or communal, I would say, action would be more, I would say, serious, seriously dealt with. And but unfortunately, we could not bring that law. But there is a very strong need, as it stands today, to bring in a law which can sort of punish anyone inciting communal violence, involved in communal violence, whether he's a Hindu or a Muslim or a Sikh or a Christian, whatever. But anyone inciting communal violence has to be punished strongly. And this is something which is the need of the hour. But we don't expect that to happen with the BJP government, because they are the main culprits for perpetrating communal violence in this country.
Sir, good evening, sir. I am a degree student studying in St. Dominic's College, Kanjirapally. So my question is, according to you, how can I help in building social justice in India?
Social justice, if you see, if you work amongst the poor, among the underprivileged, the deprived sections, now you see with what commitment the missionaries worked during those periods where there was no communication. They worked in the 19th century, 18th century, 17th century, even in the as back as more than 1,000 years back. And with what difficulty they must have gone inside. Communication would have been a major problem. But there is no, dearth of opportunity for working in underprivileged section and the poor societies, for the poor and the deprived. So therefore, you have to choose which area and which field to work in, and which are the objective, which are the projects you can take up. Organization. So therefore, I think social injustice shall continue. It is a part of human, I would say, way of life, because there was social injustice in thousands of years back, and it is continuing, and it shall continue, because exploitation is part of the human cycle. So therefore, social injustice can never be removed. It has to be fought at every level for all periods of time.
Sir, there is a question regarding the new education policy of 2020.
Yeah.
So how do you analyze the provisions of the new new educational policy 2020?
It's very unfortunate that they impose its agenda through the new education policy. Now, what the draft was prepared by Dr. Kasturi Rangan has been dramatically changed in the last hour. And they want to sort of bring in a lot of their pracharaks of the RSS through back door. In sort of in this new education policy, number one. Number two, the online education promotion is even today is not possible because the reach is still limited. So therefore, there are many facets on the new education policy. If the Dominic College wants to have a detailed discussion on the new education policy, I'd be very happy to participate.
Sure, sir. We already had a discussion and we will have more. If you participate, it will be, we all will be very much interested to hear that.
Okay.
Now, Professor Donna wants to ask a question. Professor Donna.
Hello?
Professor Donna may ask a question. She is requesting.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Vinod sir. Good evening, sir. First of all, thank you very much for your talk. It was an honor to have listened to you and all the more wonderful to interact with you. Sir, my question is, do you think the Hindutva ideology of present-day India is part of an upper caste effort to regain their lost powers?
You see, first of all, Hindu, it has nothing to do with the Sanatan Dharma of the Hindu Dharma. It is totally a word coined by Savarkar, Damodar Savarkar, to create an identity for the Hindus. And it has nothing to do with the religion. It is more of a political weapon to disturb the communal harmony in India. So therefore, a good practicing Hindu has no connection whatsoever with Hindutva, because it does not represent the majority of the Hindus in this country. So therefore, it is a misunderstanding that Hindutva sort of stands for Hindu religion. Hindu has nothing to do with Hindu religion. And on the contrary, it is against the basic tenets, basic principles of the Hindu Dharma.
Sir,
Hello, sir.
may I speak?
Yes,
Greetings,
go ahead.
sir.
Go ahead.
May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Devika Prakash. First of all, greetings, sir. It was nice interactive session with you. During the session, you said that rich people are becoming richer and poor people are becoming poorer. How practical is redistribution of wealth in India for ensuring social justice in our country?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Okay, sir. During the session, you said that rich people are becoming richer and poor are becoming poorer. How practical is redistribution of wealth in India for ensuring social justice?
Well, if you see the election manifesto 2019 of the Congress Party, we had promised a Nyaya Yojana with a direct cash benefit, cash transfer benefit to the poorest of the poor. If you see the right to food policy of the UPA government, redistribution of wealth is the basic ideology of the Congress Party, and therefore, if you see the 10 years of UPA government, the maximum people were lifted out of from below the poverty line. So therefore, redistribution of wealth is most important. Unfortunately, the basic economic policy as being practiced and being implemented by the BJP is quite contrary to what is necessary for redistribution of wealth. For example, they are privatizing the profit-making public sector units. They are also making policies. Now they brought in ordinances to sort of benefit the big multinationals and big corporates to enter the
Okay,
rural
sir.
market, which is going to be instrumental in exploiting the interests of the farmers of this country. So therefore, a basic thing is that Congress party is following a very pragmatic socio-economic policies which benefits the poor, taxes the rich to distribute that to the poor through right to food, through helping the small and I must say micro minor industries and not unorganized sector. At the same time, redistribution of government land to the poor, the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. We have to bring the underprivileged sections into the mainstream to sort of give them the first right to our resources, whether it's a mineral wealth or a forest wealth or the budget resources.
Also, sir, you said that social media is spreading false news. We also see that certain communities have been portrayed in a bad way through social media and it affects their mental health. What's your take on it?
I totally agree with you. You know, I'm one of the most hated person for these troll armies of Mr. Modi and the BJP because I've always been standing up to them. But it doesn't matter. One should not be too much influenced or too much I would say be disturbed by these fake news and the troll armies of communal who are spreading communal hatred because they are all paid people. This is not the mood of the people. These are all paid people of the BJP and Mr. Modi who are spreading hatred on the social media. So just avoid looking at these. It is certainly affecting the young minds, and therefore I think it is becoming to a dangerous proportion. But I would say you should ignore all these postings of communal hatred on the social media. Just ignore them.
Sir,
Thank you for answering, sir.
according to you, is the present education. Sir, according to you, is the present educational system supportive for building social justice in India? And one more question: is social media supportive for conducting social justice?
You see, in the new education policy, they have given more stress to the private institutions. What is more important is to provide better quality education at the primary and the secondary level in government schools, which has been ignored in the present education policy of 2020. Because I think those who can afford private institutions is good for them. Implementation of the Right to Education Act brought by the UPA government, which reserves 25% of the seats to the poorest of the poor, has to be implemented in right earnest, number one. Number two, the government has to provide more scholarships to the poorer sections of the society so that they get an opportunity to study in the best of the education institution.
Hello, sir. May I ask a question?
Sir, also one more question: that social media is supportive. Is social media supportive for conducting justice in India?
Social media, as it stands today, is destroying the social fabric of this country. They are using abusive language against anyone who stands up to challenge them. But that's not the issue is that whether it's a Facebook or a Twitter or any other social media platform, we have to be very, very careful. And I would strongly suggest to Government of India that fake news and fake identities have to be controlled rigorously, and we have to look at the cyber laws also, that anyone who posts these abusive postings on the social media has to be identified and punished strongly.
Okay,
Good
thank you,
evening,
sir,
sir.
for your valuable answer. Okay, thank you, sir, for your valuable answer.
Hello, sir. May I ask a question?
Hello, sir.
How long will you carry on? How long will you carry on? Because I have an appointment half an hour later.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So how much long time? How long will you take now?
So just a very important notice. Just a very important notice. The time frame constraints are there. We cannot strain our honorable resource person for a long time. So just one more question is.
I'll take two more questions. Okay, two more questions.
Last question, please.
Sir, may I?
I'll
Sir,
take
may
some.
I please?
May I ask a question? Sir.
Hello.
Yes, carry on.
Sir, as you know, when the colonial government ruled in India, the lives of tribal population were very pitiful. But after India gained independence and the new independent Indian government was formed, and now 74 years later, still now, many of these tribal population are facing many injustice. Many of them are not getting even the basic necessities of life, and many are not having access to education. Sir, why is this? Why why the Indian governments are having a lethargic approach to the the population of India?
I come from a state where there is a large tribal population, and we have in the last 70 years, there is no doubt that there has been a significant change in the lifestyle of the tribal people. I've seen in remote tribal areas of Chhattisgarh, in Abujman areas, which were very primitive. But now things are different. Now, for example, in Madhya Pradesh, in the Patalkot region, which was totally inaccessible, now there are roads, there are schools, there are hostels. Education has gone there. People have got jobs. In fact, there are some primitive tribes in Madhya Pradesh which had a declining trend of population. So that was checked. Malnutrition among them, among the Sarias, one of the Saria community, we looked after them, although there is still some malnutrition. But you can't say that things have become worse after 1947. Things have definitely improved, and I visited remote areas of Madhya Pradesh because as a chief minister, I used to go in a helicopter and land in any village, small village habitation without any prior notice, so that I could come face to face with the realities in Madhya Pradesh. So there's been a tremendous change in the lifestyle of the people in tribal areas in India. But the last question now.
So what's your opinion about migration? We can't avoid the harsh realities of our economy and availability of resources. And our country is comparatively higher in population density status also. Beyond being a politician, can you analyze this relating to social justice as an academician?
Can you repeat your question, because your voice was...
Sure, sir. Migration is a great problem to the whole world today. Despite put forward by a philosophical ideology, we have to look at the economy and the availability of our resources, which is also a country which have comparatively higher population density status. Beyond being a politician, can you analyze this relating to social justice as an academician?
You see, as it stands today, there has been a declining trend in our growth of population. And most probably of the majority community, the population will stabilize by 20, and on the minorities, the Muslims in particular, will stabilize around about 2029 or 2030. But at the same time, poverty is one of the major reasons for growth of population. Education and also, I would say, quality of life is very important to check growth of population. Now, why Kerala, this has got a high literacy rate and much better, I would say, per capita income, has the population has stabilized. So therefore, I think awareness, education, quality of life will automatically control the growth of population in this country. Okay,
sir,
thank you.
Actually, thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much to all of you.
Sir, hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Dear participants, kindly understand that the question answer session cannot be prolonged. Kindly bear with us.
May I have your permission to leave?
Hello.
Hello,
dear participants. We cannot take any more questions. Let us stop here the interaction session because of the constraints of the time. Our honorable resource person himself suggested that he would listen to us and interact with us rather than engaging in a one-way talk. I was actually very much interested in listening to him.
So, may I leave now? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Because we all know that he is one of the best speakers of this country, especially when we look at the sincerity and also the boldness with which he analyzes the present political scenario. However, it turned out to be a very interesting session because he managed to do both. He gave a very inspiring and a very direct and sincere session in the beginning, and then he interacted with us very patiently, answering all our questions, ranging from education to economy and every aspect of Indian life today. It was really a very wonderful session, sir. And I'm very hopeful that we will be able to utilize the promise that he has made, that he will be available for another seminar which we can organize on the national education policy. Already we are looking forward to hear from you, sir, on that. Now, may I take this opportunity to make a concluding note regarding the 3-day international seminar. On the first day, we had Dr. Burton Cletus from JNU to tell us how the paradigm of social justice has been shifting in India right from the 19th century to the current times. He very clearly explained us how we can understand the present scenario in India as one in which the upper caste rebellion is going on. By the term upper caste rebellion, he brought to our attention the element of denial of social justice in this political scenario as well. The second day, Dr. Whitney Howard from USA tried to relate communalism with social justice. But denial of social justice is very much a part of the expression of communalism that we experience today. So, social justice is something which has got many aspects, but it is very much connected with the political. Our political life is under change, under total change, we have to say. This is one of the major concerns that has come up in this 3-day international seminar. If you want to be a just society, of course, political consciousness is the most important thing. And we have to be responsible citizens by being very much concerned about the political ideologies and developments that are going on in the country. With this note, I would like to thank all our participants, because this was a very beautiful seminar, I must say, because all the 3 days, throughout the sessions, right from the beginning to the close of the session, the Google chat room was full. 220 people were there. That is the most beautiful element of this seminar. And for that, I must thank all the participants. Especially, it was the 3 great resource persons, Dr. Burton Cletus, Dr. Whitney Howard, and Sri Digvijaya Singh, who made us capture actually in this Google Meet room. We were not able to move out because so capturing was their presentation, and so interestingly they interacted with us. And then His Excellency George Pulikal, very Reverend Father Varghese Perintirigal, and Dr. Nancy Joseph, the principal of the college, gave us very good introductions to the concepts which he discussed. Professor Francis Thomas, Professor Joseph Vinnie Joy, Professor Pradesh Abraham, Professor Michael Thomas, and my dear colleague, Dr. Georgie Thomas, and my students and the fellow teachers of this college have all contributed to this great effort. It all made this session an ever memorable one. And thankfully, I remain. Thank you.
Now, I request Professor Ronnie K. Baby, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, St. Dominic's College, and a member of the organizing committee to register vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. In the last 3 days, we have been discussing many aspects of social justice and Indian modernity. One of the major goals, both of our freedom movement and also our post-independent nation making, is to attaining social justice to all. But unfortunately, we are still lacking behind of our declared goals. The major thrust area of our Indian Constitution, which includes in preamble, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, is to attain social justice. But we can hope that in near future, that certainly we will attain this goal. On behalf of St. Dominic's College and Department of History, let me express my deep gratitude to all those who have been doing well for making this webinar a grand success. First of all, let me thank to His Excellency George Pulikal, Bishop of Kanjirapally and patron of our college, for making this webinar a grand success. And after, I must thank to Father Varghese Perintirigal, is the manager of our college, Dr. Nancy Joseph, our principal, and the convener of the program, Professor Binopi Joseph, head of the Department of History, and my colleague, Dr. Georgie Joseph, for making this webinar a very successful one. Let me thank to Dr. Pradesh Abraham, he is the coordinator of IQAC, Dr. Francis Thomas, Dr. Vineet Joy, who have given all the technical support for this webinar. And more importantly, let me thank the former Chief Minister and MB Rajya Sabha, Sri Digvijaya Singh, and the other panelists, Dr. Whitney Howard from USA, and my dear friend, Dr. Burton Cletus from JNU, who have been contributing their valuable opinions and valuable ideas in the last 3 days for this webinar. And finally, and more importantly, let me thank to my fellow colleagues, including Dr. Michael Thomas, Department of Botany, and all other my colleagues of the college who have been participating in the seminar, and the teachers from other colleges, other universities, and the students of history and of political science from various colleges of Mahatma Gandhi University and even outside of this university. And lastly, thank you all for making this webinar a grand success. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all once again. And with this, we declare the international webinar on social justice and Indian modernity complete. Thank you.